When Trump said this is not typical, he is exactly right. This is not a typical election. And there's a massive effort to normalize this. You see the New York Times column say, well, the Trump people have a case. You see the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the United States, saying, well, they're right about some things. You see reporters with Jason Miller in the Fort Des Moines Hotel. Reminds me of a bunch of German reporters in some Munich bar in 1935 saying, hey, Goring, he was an entertaining guy. I tell you what, he had some great stories. Nothing is normal about this at all. And you watched his speech last night, it was completely unhinged. And what I am obsessed with is stop treating him like he is a normal candidate, that this is some kind of Bob Dole, Mitt Romney. This is really not, Ari. And, you know, the polling was accurate in Iowa. It was actually accurate in 2022. People just substituted their own judgment for the numbers that were sitting right in front of them. But if you look at this, there is a chance that Trump could win this election. And the way that he wins is he's treated as a normal candidate. Look, James, you got your views, and he's got his views. And he's been found to be a rapist by a jury. Why in the New York Times or anybody, every time he's in, Donald Trump, who was found by a jury to have raped a woman, said this. The public doesn't, we're ill-informing the public of just what a wretched human being this man is. And there is a giant effort to try to normalize this.
Well, let me jump in because you're making an important point. It's a substantive point. At the end of the day, politics has a lot going on, but substance is what undergirds it. That's why so many people still care about it. And you're talking about the substance that I think also speaks to the weakness and the reason why even Republicans, even soft Republicans, even independents, New Hampshire independents are not known for their rabid progressivism or what DeSantis would try to call wokeism or anything else. You know the state. I've been out there covering it. I was there. I was in the room watching Trump in 2016 when he won New Hampshire. Well, he won last night by a lower margin, I think is striking. He has not yet consolidated the base, if you define it as everyone who leans right or wants to vote Republican. And so I wonder whether part of that is for the reasons you state, that even if the media filter and other filters are off, people are aware of this problem. At the same time, as you said, if he's over-normalized, they might forget it or they might look on to other things. I want to show just a part of some of the way that he was conducting himself and bringing in those other people last night on the stage for your breakdown. Take a look.
You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's good. That's why he's a great politician. Vivek, 1 minute or less. Go do it, Vivek.
What we saw tonight is America first defeating America last.
Now, James, you made a historical analogy earlier. I'll make a historical contrast, which is there's always been an effort to try to get your primary opponents together, especially if you become the nominee. But this didn't feel like that. And the way that the fealty is demanded, that you don't just endorse the nominee, but you really defenestrate yourself and you really humiliate yourself and you really put person above party and democracy, that does feel a little less like a democracy process, and it speaks to what he demands. Mike Pence learned about the other side of that.
Right. It's not normal, and we should quit trying to make it normal. What you saw last night was not normal in any sense. By the way, I've been texting with some historian friends of mine today. You're a guy who loves history. In the history of the United States, has any state had more comedic figures than two senators than currently we have in South Carolina? I can't look at Tim Scott without busting out laughing. You can't watch Lindsey Graham and not just chuckle. I mean, I'm sorry. This performance last night was, I can't wait for Saturday Night Live. I mean, this is breathtaking. What we saw, honestly, you have to stand back and go, oh, my Lord, this is historic stuff. And then Scott's trying to go, his head's going one way and Scott's head's going the other way to get in the shot. And then he brings Vivek up and tells him he's got 60 seconds. Yeah, I've had my share of, good election nights. I've written way more than my share of concession speeches. I've never seen anything like this.
This is an interesting space. You guys have already opened up a part of the conversation that I think really is important to contextualize and understand when you're looking at a Republican base in the context of Donald Trump and everybody else. Let's make clear on a couple of things. One, this base wants Donald Trump, right? Two, they're not going anywhere else. So can we just disabuse ourselves of that idea at this point? If Iowa, New Hampshire hasn't taught you anything by now, then you don't understand politics. And you damn sure don't understand the Republican Party as it's currently constituted. Three, this idea that, Nikki Haley is now going to go wind up all these Republicans and reel them in, that ain't happening. Why? Because the bet.
Well, let me jump in. I'm only going to jump in because, we do a dialogue. I hear what you're saying, Michael, but I'm going to challenge you to say, is it 10 to 20% over-indexed? By which I mean, yes, he's on the path to win. I just referred to the delegate rules. That's hard to overcome on its own. But why isn't he doing better than Bush did against Buchanan? Or how about this, better than Trump did in the New Hampshire primary in 2016? Do you see
because a lot of Republicans are staying home. That's the point. You got 100 Republicans in a room, right? 25 of them vote. What do you think the outcome's going to be? It's going to be what that 25 wants. And so that 25 may be less than the 30 or the 40 that voted the last time. So, yeah, the numbers are going to change there. This is not about we got to stop doing this apple-to-apple comparison. You cannot look at prior elections and project onto this election outcomes and results because the base and the party and Trump have already distorted that. But it goes to the third thing real quick, and that is you saw this morning with the National Committee, Ronna McDaniel and others coming out and trying to corral Nikki, right? Nikki, time for you. Okay, it's been fun. It's been real, but it's time to get in line. And the final bet is at the end of the day, and there's a lot of truth to this, and James knows it, Republicans will come home. All those Republicans you were just talking about
for you.
Will come home.
Even though we slightly may have different perspectives on a piece of that, which I just referred to, I'm going to tell the control room, let's bring that up early because we actually have that for you. Because you talk about the RNC, Michael, you talk about Ronna, I think you know something about that job, right?
A little bit. Just a little bit. So let me bring that up. Keep going. I'm talking to the control room. I'm doing this live. We're going to bring this up from where we had it later. Here's the deal is.
1 second. I think we got the sound too. So you guys, I'm looking for later in the show. I'm talking. It's so hard, Michael, when I'm talking to the team, talking to you, talking to James. So hey, what I'm going to do with you guys both here, we're going to play a little bit of this because it's very interesting. Michael's bringing up the fact that the RNC might not be what it used to. Take a look.
I'm looking at the math and the path going forward, and I don't see it for Nikki Haley. I think she's run a great campaign, but I do think there is a message that's coming out from the voters, which is very clear. We need to unite around our eventual nominee, which is going to be Donald Trump.
As Michael just reminded us, that's the RNC chair. Now, you guys stay with me because it's funny. We were preparing this. Haley supporters, including, say, Governor Sununu, say it's nonsense. You have to let the voters decide, not political elites in D.C. It's also, of course, hypocritical. It was McDaniel going after the DNC as recently as 2020, saying they were rigging against Sanders. She is literally publicly, not privately, publicly trying to do that now because she's not respecting all the remaining Republican primaries. Now, Michael, I guess you didn't know how wild the research is. I don't want to shout out my team too much, but we have a really smart team of writers, researchers, and journalists on the beat, and they went back in the archives and said, gosh, is this how it works? Well, let's take a trip back to 2009.
My job as the national chairman is not to pick the winners and losers. It's not to pick who gets to run. And my job as the national chairman is to support the eventual nominee, whether they are selected or elected through a primary process. I have no cause or reason to get in that primary or a primary in Texas or a primary in California or a primary anywhere. I wait until the nominee is chosen.
What's the history? What's the standard? Is the new RNC chair failing the standard?
Failing the standard, doing what Donald Trump and others want her to do. I think I made very clear what the standard had been. And at least that's what it was for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have a party discipline conversation with candidates. They're out there showing their behind. And I say, well, look, I just can't support you showing your behind. So you go do that, but don't expect me to write a check, right? So there are things that the party can do, but the actual telling a candidate, okay, you just had a good primary night, you need to step down now. That's not what the process, and that's not what the party in the past has wanted. If they really wanted her out, then there's a process for that, Ari. It's called a Rule 11 letter, where the party basically get all the central committees to agree Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, and they basically end the primary. But that's not what's on the table here. And I think it's important to just make it very clear, this part of the process is an aberration with this sort of sticking your finger in the water to try to change its temperature.